Councilmember Wendell and Councilmember Chilton-Byrne are absent.
Which means we still have a quorum.
Correct.
All right. Action to approve the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Any comments from the public on the agenda for this evening? Council, questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Specker?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Doran?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye. Open forum. In order to provide equal access to all during the open forum and the public comment portions of the meeting, each individual offering comments shall not exceed the allotted 3-minute period. The podium light turns green and then to yellow, and then when there is 1 minute remaining, your time for comment is expired when the podium light turns red. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the council on an item not listed on tonight's agenda? Okay. Move on to item 5, consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on any of the items on the consent agenda? Council have any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Avery?
Aye.
Doran?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
All right. And then we'll move on to presentation of city years of service and recognition. Casey Bell, our Human Resources Director, will provide this recognition.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. In November 2025, the city hosted an employee appreciation lunch to celebrate our incredible full-time employees. During this event, we honored those who reached a longevity milestone in 2025, recognizing their dedication and years of service to the city of Brookings. We snapped a few fun photos of the event so we can show off their friendly faces with the community and with you tonight. But during this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize these employees and show our appreciation for all that they do for the city of Brookings. Oh, we're double taking. Got it. In community development, we have Jared Thomas with 10 years of service, Aaron Carl with 5 years of service, and Ryan Miller with 5 years of service. Fire department, Jared Runge with 5 years of service. In IT and finance, we have Don Goff with 5 years of service, Ashley Wrench with 5 years of service, and Kwaku Ponyo with 10 years of service. In the library, we have Betsy Lenning. She has an incredible 30 years of service with the city, and Nita Gill with 15 years of service. In the liquor store, Bill Heltz, 5 years of service, Brian Hansen, 10 years of service. In the Parks Department, Parks, Rec, and Forestry, we have Mark Brennan with 15 years of service, Greg Rodinius with 10 years of service, and Stephen Hartung with 10 years of service. In the Police Department, Drew Gary with 15 years of service, Josh Schneider with 15 years of service, Kyle Johnson with 5 years of service, Luke DeYoung with 10 years of service, Jory Hart with 10 years of service. In Public Works, we have Lana Schwartz, who unfortunately couldn't be with us for the event, but we had somebody fill in for and take her place. Lana with 15 years of service. In the Solid Waste Division, we had Brian Klimbile with 15 years of service. And in the Street Division, we have Eric Hansen with 10 years of service and Jeremy Jansen with 10 years of service. I just want to extend a thank you to all of these employees. We're truly grateful for their commitment to our organization and our community. And looking back on it, it's just amazing the amount of years of service and longevity we have with the city. So thank you to those employees.
Thank you. All right. SDSU Student Association. Anna's not here, but we have a young man by the name of Dominic, Finance Chair for Student Association, will present.
Yep, so as you said, my name is Dominic Delhoyd, and I am the Finance Chair for Student Association, filling in for Anna tonight. So on our report, we have the slate for president and vice president is now closed. Sophie Spear and Megan Christoffels are running unopposed this year for Students Association president and vice president. Our budget has been finalized and will be sent to the Board of Regents in April with the GAF reallocation that we previously approved. Congratulations to our women's basketball team on their 4-peat Summit League championship. They will be heading into March Madness here later in March. The Student Promotion Fund Committee funded Stay-a-thon for their April 11th event, and then the Cafes Prexy Council for Ag Week and Ag Day Banquet on April 15th. Happening around campus, Little International is happening this year on March 27th and 28th, and then the SDSU Wachipi is also happening on March 27th and 28th that weekend. For sports this week, we have softball host Columbia on March 13th, and currently SDSU is hosting the high school Class B basketball tournament at First Bank and Trust Arena. That is the end of the report.
Thank you, Dominic. Got any questions for Dominic? Comments? Thank you, young man. Move on to ex officio reports. Brookings Municipal Utilities. Bonnie, do you have a report?
Yep. Yesterday, the BMU board met and approved the disposition of surplus equipment, bills, claims, change orders, purchases, a variety of bids. The quarterly financial review was done. MRES was there and presented and discussed an agreement about an additional transmission line for Brookings that would go through Aurora, and also 2 additional substations in Aurora. This will be it's actually kind of a result of the derecho and not having that backup or a redundancy in power. So this would really help solve that issue. Also, the water, the irrigation of yards for this summer is back to normal restrictions where you're allowed to water 4 days a week. Even house numbers is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Odd house numbers is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And also keep your eye open for a newsletter that went out today that provides an update on the various departments within BMU and some pictures and stuff. So they're going to try to start doing this monthly, this newsletter. So that's about it.
Thank you, Bonnie. Do we have a report from Brookings Health Service?
I attended the most recent meeting of the Brookings Health System Board of Trustees. Really, 2 primary topics were addressed throughout the meeting. One was the use of AI in healthcare, and then a continuing discussion of the health system's move to Epic. So we received a presentation from Dr. Rebecca Vandekop on the use of AI in medicine. She really emphasized how AI is a tool that can be used to analyze data and automate processes, but people will always be needed. And so really, for the sake of time, I thought what was most interesting were some of the AI uses that can be integrated into Epic. So like I've mentioned in some of my other ex officio reports, there is an ambient listening tool that can be used to minimize the amount of time that providers have to spend on appointment summaries. It can also analyze data and even make some care suggestions. But she emphasized throughout the course of her presentation to us that providers really have to proofread what AI produces. So it struggles sometimes to distinguish voices or hallucinates based on something that was said. So maybe something, for instance, like diabetes was mentioned in passing, and so then it will insert into the transcript that a discussion of ways to minimize your risk for diabetes was discussed, even if it wasn't. So similarly, AI can also help with shift care notes and provide patients with insight about any type of procedures that they have. So one that they mentioned that's been useful is in terms of colonoscopy preparation, just making sure patients are really understanding what they need to do prior to that procedure. There's also some other interesting features about helping providers prioritize messages from patients and then write prior authorization citation or appeal letters to insurance companies. They talked about how insurance companies are also using AI, so it's really about trying to make sure that you have the best letter possible with your correspondence. Overall, the transition to Epic is going well. Employees are receiving training this month, and then the finance department is also working on integration with Epic, so as much as possible, there doesn't have to be too much taking place outside of that particular portal with respect to billing classifications and categories, as providers are kind of marking what happened during different appointments. And that's the end of my report. I stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions, comments on either one of the reports? All right, we'll move on to contracts and change orders. Item 7A, discussion and possible action on the 2026 outside agency funding recommendations. Paul Brusino, our city manager, and Heidi Gullickson, United Way director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. Each year, the City Council allocates a portion of the budget to support outside agencies and service to outside agencies that serve our community. In 2026, the City Council approved $274,254 for the budgeting of outside agency allocation. This is consistent with the City Council's adopted policy and an increase from last year. Very few communities in South Dakota provide funding for social service agencies like Brookings does, and this demonstrates the importance of our non-for-profit agencies and the work they do in our community. Applications were received by the United Way Committee, which uses an impact-based rubric to evaluate the requests. Based on the current community needs, food security and rental assistance programs were prioritized during the funding cycle. Staff does recommend approval of funding allocations as presented, which distribute the $274,254 budgeted by City Council among the recommended agencies. As the mayor noted, Heidi is here from United Way to answer any questions council might have of this process or of the recommendation as well.
Hello, Heidi Gullickson from Brookings Area United Way. We see in front of us the 2026 funding request and then also the BAUW 2026 recommendations. Recommendations might be higher, but we know we have to stay within that budget, so that is where we come out at. And one of the things that you might see on here, the food pantry did not request this year. When they got down to the time for requesting and looking at their financials, they said the community has been very generous this year, and they would forego a allocation this year and let those dollars go other places in the community where they need it to make an impact right now. So thank you to the City Council for these funds to go out into the community, and also thank you to the community that support these organizations along the way as well. Any questions from Council?
Councilmember Specker.
So apparently this year, the council, or not apparently, but the council recommended like food security and rental assistance. You have been dropped from as the priority areas. And I was looking over it, and those two, and I'm not, maybe you could just point out which organizations contribute to that, because maybe I'm missing some of them.
Sure.
But it seems like only about 27% of the actual funds are going to food insecurity and rental assistance. I thought maybe you could address, are they getting funds from other areas, or?
Sure, yep.
MUBIC works?
Yeah. Many of these organizations are receiving funding from other other sources as well, including United Way. And so when looking at what they requested and the dollars that we're able to allocate, being able to really help to increase all of them helps in all of the different fashions as well. And so if we can help with in one area, it also does then trickle down to those housing and food organizations as well. But Salvation Army would be one that would definitely be in the rental assistance area. We've got Feeding Brookings and the food organization, the Backpack Project. Let's see. But we can also know that I'll use Margot's Place as an example. those organizations also have food insecurity issues that happen there, so those dollars are also helping, even though they're not considered necessarily a food insecurity organization. Same, you know, that's kind of how it lays out in some of these as well. So nothing is siloed. Everything really is intertwined in our community of one area of need to another area of need.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dern?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I do have a question, but before I ask the question, I have my disclosure statement. So, in the interest of transparency, I wanted to disclose my involvement in multiple organizations connected to this voting item. Specifically, I currently serve as the Executive Director of Margot's Place, the domestic violence shelter, and prepared the grant application. I also serve as President of the Brookings Backpack Project Board of Directors, and I'm a voting board member on the Brookings Area Transit Authority Board of Directors, both positions of which oversee and approve relevant grant applications and budgets. The outside agency allocation process includes setting an annual main priority area based on received public feedback of community needs, which Brookings Area United Way then reviews the specific applications and presents the recommendation we see here tonight. This allocation would go to programs and direct support, so noting that I nor any family members would receive any direct financial or personal gain. After thoughtful consideration and consultation with legal counsel and my fellow council members reviewing this matter, I concluded that my involvement does not constitute a direct financial or personal conflict. Furthermore, I believe I can adequately and impartially participate in the discussion and subsequent vote on United Way's recommendation on allocations, but wanted to provide clarity to the public on this process. That being said, thank you. So a couple of questions. One is, for those who maybe aren't familiar of the work of nonprofits or want to understand the needs more, if these programs disappeared tomorrow and kind of showing the impact of the support, what measurable impact would the community experience?
Again, as I said before, everything is so intertwined that we have about, I want to say it's about 30% of our students are on free and reduced lunch. So we know that we have about that percentage of folks who are financially struggling in our community. And so if these organizations weren't there to help support and lift up, we would see a large increase in folks that are really going to be, we'll see a big increase in, I'm sorry, my brain does not work recently. Words are really hard. So
You're okay.
when you can no longer stay in the place that you're renting. Eviction, there it is. Thank you.
You're good.
So we would see an increase in eviction, we would see an increase in folks not being able to get to work, and then when they lose their job because they don't have the transportation or the childcare, those resources, then we're going to see higher employment and all of those, which we know, and I think Chief Drake is in the back of the room maybe still, we'll see an increase in crime. That's just the way that it lays out. So the nonprofits really are helping our community members be able to be our community members and to be our employees and to be our neighbors and to be our helpers and our, it's that step up, and it's helping them do what they need to do and for Brookings to be who we are.
Thank you. And then my second question is, as a council, we've talked about the trends in the community, and that's how we set our priority areas. The two that have consistently risen since 2020 is food insecurity and rental assistance. Since you mentioned that all of these areas are intertwined and it's not siloed, could you talk about other areas of impact or need that you are seeing in the community?
Sure. We continue to see the mental health resources. We've got some great organizations and nonprofits in our community that work in that area. Ones that we see that we automatically think of, the Avera Behavioral Health, the Brookings Behavioral Health and Wellness. But even within our Brookings County Youth Mentoring, within our school districts, within Harvest, all of these other ones have that component too. And so these resources are, the services may be done at a couple of these organizations, but that information, those resources are really distributed through all of them. And so we continue to see that as a need in our community. The food insecurity there are many programs to help many different types of situations, and so we want to be able to make sure that folks who qualify for those programs do have access to those programs to be able to get those resources into their home. So they don't have to make the decision of, are my kids going to eat tonight or am I going to pay my rent?
Absolutely. I would just like to thank United Way, Heidi, and your board for partnering with us on this process and providing your expertise. I really appreciate that the city does have this as a priority every year, and it's an annual decision because, like Heidi said, a lot of our residents are experiencing hardships or one or two paychecks away from struggling financially. So this is just one way that the community can come together and deliver quality services while reaching our vulnerable populations and creating solutions for all of our residents. So I appreciate the work that you've done and the council's continued support for this priority in our community.
Thank you.
All right. Probably should have that discussion after we had a motion on the floor. Do I entertain a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
All right. Is there any public comment? Council, have any more questions, comments? Thank you, Heidi, for what you've done here for us. It takes the politics out of it and makes it better for our community.
Thank you.
And you've got the pulse of all this all to begin with. Thanks, Heidi. Please call the roll.
Doran. Aye. Hager.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Stecker.
Aye.
Avery.
All right.
Mayor,
First-
if I may,
Go
does
ahead.
council want to continue through this phone noise? They could reboot the system to try to get rid of it. It'll take a minute or two, or I would almost recommend going to the other room. If you want to continue, that's fine. We can continue. I just wanted to make sure you guys are comfortable with continuing.
Wait, we can reboot quick. It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Let's do that. It's kind of annoying.
And thank you, Heidi. If you could.
All right, item 8A, first readings, introduction and first reading on ordinance 26-010, an ordinance to revise Chapter 62, Division 3, dead, dying, diseased, or infested trees. What a wonderful topic. Kristen Zimmerman will present this item for us, our Park and Rec Director.
This ordinance 26-010 is just, the primary purpose is to update it, to modernize these ordinance language. In the existing ordinance as it stands, it reflects just emerald ash borer and Dutch elm disease. And so with the revised language, it just is dead, dying, diseased, or infested trees. So the reason that it's important is it allows us to respond more quickly to maybe like pine wilt that's moving in through our community. And we have some other diseases and infestations that are likely going to make an appearance here in the next 10 years, which I know is super exciting. It's not. But this update is largely administrative in nature, and it does not change the city's existing authority or process, but instead ensures the ordinance remains flexible and effective as new threats to our tree canopy emerge. The city of Brookings has invested in our trees, and we prioritize maintaining a healthy and resilient urban forest. And keeping our ordinance current is an important part of protecting that investment. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Is there any public comment on this item? Council, any questions, comments at the time? All right. We'll have next reading on March 24th meeting. And we move on to second readings and public hearings. Item 8A. Second reading and action on ordinance 26006, ordinance authorizing budget amendment number 10 to the 2025 budget.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is the second reading of ordinance 26-006, amendment number 10 to the 2025 budget. This amendment increases budget authority in several governmental fund areas to properly close out 2025. The total increase in expenditure authority is $153,614.60, and the primary adjustments include city attorney for $45,000 due to contracting with a new legal firm and an adjusted fee structure. Human resources, $41,000 related to recruitment costs, employee training, and salary survey. Community Development, $25,000 due to the addition of the Associate Planner position. Appropriations and Subsidies, $13,000, primarily related to legal fees associated with the downtown parking lot purchase. The Dakota Bank Center, $29,614.60, addressing the 2025 operating shortfall to be transferred from the 3B fund. And then finally, we had a net zero adjustment from Parks, Recreation, and Forestry due to the reconfiguration of some positions. This amendment ensures that the city closes out 2025 in compliance with state law, and staff recommends approval as presented. I'll stand by for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Moved and second. Is there a public comment on this item? Council, questions, comments? I think a lot of those questions were answered in first reading. Please call the roll.
Hager.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
Doran.
Aye.
All right. Item 8B, second reading and action on ordinance 26-007, an ordinance authorizing a budget amendment number 1 to the 2026 budget. Ashley Wrench will also present this item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is the second reading of ordinance 26-007, amendment number 1 to the 2026 budget. This amendment carries forward budget authority and surplus funds from 2025 into 2026, where expenses will occur this year due to project timing. Two key components include the transfer from the general fund to the fire facility project to account for the full estimated cost of the fire facility. These funds come from the general fund reserves designated for city council financial policy projects, and then the transfer from the capital improvement plan fund to the Dakota Bank Center fund to carry forward any unused capital funds into 2026. And overall, this amendment ensures that projects and equipment purchases are proceeding as planned while maintaining transparency and compliance with state law. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance as presented, and I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and second. Is there any public comment on this item? Council, any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Excuse me, Doran. Aye. Hager.
Aye.
Niemeyer.
Aye.
Specker.
Aye.
Avery.
Aye.
All right. Item 8C, second reading and action on ordinance 26-009, an ordinance amending Chapter 6, Section 6 through 8, and Chapter 74, Section 74 through 40 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Brookings. Samantha Beckman will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. In front of you tonight are amendments to two different versions of our code, Section 6.8 and Section 74.40. Both of these pertain to the sidewalk dining and more specifically the modifications that we've made for the downtown district parklet adjustments here. A parklet is a small seating area or green space that is created as a public amenity either alongside a sidewalk or walkway, or likely in most cases here, it'll be in parking spaces adjacent to a business. In 2024, the city partnered with Wooden Legs Brewing Company to conduct a pilot parklet program for a period of 2 years. The pilot parklet program was a success in its first year and has been tremendously received by the Brookings community. Due to the program's success, staff is recommending approval of these two ordinances to formally allow parklets by code. While in the process of updating both of these ordinances, we've had the opportunity to engage Wooden Legs on multiple occasions. We did pre- and post-season meetings with them to understand and address challenges that came up during those times. We also engaged Downtown Brookings and several different city staff in different departments there. As a reminder, parklets are limited to the side streets only. However, sidewalk dining is still allowed throughout downtown, so those main avenue businesses do still have the opportunity to participate with tables outside of their business. And with that, I will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this item? Council have any questions, comments? Thank you for bringing this forward. Please call the roll.
Specker.
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Doran? Aye. Hager?
Aye.
Neemeyer?
Aye. Item 8D, public hearing and action on ordinance 26-008 and an ordinance amending Chapter 94, Article 6, Division 5, Section 94-473, related to projecting signs in the Business B1 Central District. Mike Struck, our Community Development Director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. The ordinance amendment before you tonight is to amend the sign ordinance specific to the B1 district for projecting signs. The current ordinance restricts projecting signs to one per building face. Many of the businesses downtown are located on 25-foot wide lots. We've got a few instances downtown where those lots have been combined into one building. They would only be allowed one projecting sign. If we were to change the ordinance, we would move it towards one projecting sign per 25 feet of street frontage. So when they combine a building into one storefront, they would be allowed to each have two projecting signs or one per 25 feet there. At the last meeting, Councilmember Wendell asked if we had consulted with the downtown businesses or the business representatives. This was initiated by a couple of downtown business owners or building owners, as well as one of our local sign manufacturers. After the meeting, I followed up with Kirsten with downtown. She was supportive of it. She did raise one of the questions about should there be a distance between signs. We did explore that. We ended up finding out that we'd put more existing signs into non-conforming status than what could be added with this proposed language along Main Avenue. There is the potential that more signage could occur on some of the corner lots. Because those frontages are typically about 165 feet deep. The other question came up regarding historic review. We have ran these signs through the State Historic Preservation Office in the past, and they don't comment on them. They said it's not reviewable because they do not view these as permanent structures. And so the SHPO has just declined to comment on that. This does come to you as a 9-0 recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission, and stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Council, any questions, comments? Councilmember Specker.
Can you just explain again the 165 feet? I missed that.
So most of the lots downtown, there's 25-foot wide frontage and 165 feet deep. So on corner lots, they have two street frontages. So therefore, you could potentially have more projecting signs on a corner lot than what you might see right now. Right now, you'd be allowed one sign per that 165 feet of building face. With this proposed change, you could go to one per 25 feet.
On the side street?
On the side streets, on a corner lot. Yep.
And one other question, does this then, having the projecting signs, do anything about front signs? Or can you then, you
could still have a flat face front sign. So the projecting signs, there's not as many as one might think. Just to name a few businesses, and not to cause them any controversy or whatnot, but like the 9 Bar, Jim's Tap, the Nook, I believe Ray's Corner has one, the insurance agency. These projecting signs are limited to 48 square feet. They need to be 10 feet above the sidewalk. They have to be a minimum of 2 feet off of the back of curb, which seems like that's a lot of signage. The problem is you have to anchor them to the building, and they're very expensive because they have to support that load. And so most people would keep them as close to the building as possible. And I think, if I recall correctly, only the insurance agency on the very north end of Main Avenue is at 48 square feet. Most of them are around the 30 square feet, and when you get into more of the circular kind, they get even smaller in size. These are, projecting signs are perpendicular to the building. They're not to be confused with kind of the old marquee signs that used to be at the movie theaters and such. So these are a little bit smaller type projecting signs.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Dern?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to confirm what you said about the thought process around the distance between the signs. Was that a discussion, or was that brought up because of like making sure that it's not too close so it's visually easy to read, or kind of can you talk a little bit more about that specific discussion?
Yeah. So the thought process is making sure you have adequate spacing between signs so that they really serve their intended purposes. They're easily seen from both sign faces. And if you space them too close together, essentially one business could cover up another business's sign. We looked at different things, if it should be certain distance from the property line, the side property lines. Should there be a minimum of, certain distance in between? And there's really not a lot of consistency. I think the downtown businesses have done a really good job of self-policing themselves, and that they kind of look at their neighbors and they put their sign so as not to obstruct the neighboring business's sign. Part of the reason we didn't necessarily want to go with a particular distance is because for the amount of projecting signs currently on Main Avenue, and that could be added if this change is approved, we would throw at least 2 or 3 times the number of signs into non-conforming status, which means that at some point in time when they have to be repaired and taken down, they can't be put back up. They would have to move them to this new distance requirement or such. And we were trying to look at an opportunity that would help some of these downtown businesses, especially when you get into a multi-tenant type building, to help them with some of the signage, and we felt like this might be a little restrictive.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. And I really appreciate you reaching out to those entities that Councilmember Wendell had mentioned last week and getting their expertise on this.
Thank you.
All right. Please call the roll.
Avery?
Aye.
Doran?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
All right. Item 10A, action on resolution 26-016, a resolution amending the consolidated fee schedule. Ashley Wrench, our finance director, will present this item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is resolution 26-016, amending the consolidated fee schedule to add 2 fees related to sidewalk cafes and parklets. These fees are $100 annually for a sidewalk cafe permit and $250 annually for a parklet permit. Earlier this evening, the council approved an ordinance establishing permanent regulations for sidewalk cafes and parklets following the successful parklet pilot program. This resolution simply incorporates those fees into the city's fee schedule so that they're easier for businesses and the public to reference. The fees help offset administrative review, inspection, coordination, and oversight associated with the public right-of-way use for outdoor dining and seating, and staff recommends approval of this ordinance as presented. Stand by for any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Ashley. Entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item? Council, have questions, comments? All right, please call the roll.
Doran?
Aye.
Hager?
Aye.
Niemeyer?
Aye.
Specker?
Aye.
Avery?
Aye.
Okay, that's kind of the end of our business. We have 2 meetings coming up, but one next week is a study session. Basically, one subject on it is conflict of interest training, and we'll be having the council, the Historic Preservation Commission, and Planning Commission members will be attending at that meeting. Who is presenting? Bonnie.
City Attorney Vince Jones.
Well, very good. So you get to come up here 3 times in 1 month. Good for you. And then our regular meeting is on the 24th. We have one second reading from what we had tonight. Annual report from Student Association from Anna, and elections would be held by that time. Contract construction manager at risk will be presented to us for the police station, and then any other future items, which brings me to that. We have any other items that the council would like to bring before us for council agenda? Not at this time. With that being said, entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, never mind. We have one more thing. Dakota Bank Center open house, which will be Wednesday, March 18th, which will be next week, Wednesday. Session 1, we have two different sessions. Session 1 goes from 4 to 5:30. There's a presentation at 4:15 on that one. Session 2 is from 6 to 7:30, and the presentation will be at 6:15. Light refreshments will be served. Hope to have the community out there as much as possible. Thank you.
I have one more thing, Mayor, if I can. I just want to tell everyone thank you to Kwaku and Don. We had a little issue earlier at the meeting, but if anyone can fix it, it's those two. I've been at hundreds of council meetings and never have we had an issue, so this one time is okay in my mind. Right. I don't think they get enough praise at times, and I know that they're going to feel really bad about the way this meeting goes, and just an opportunity to let them know that things happen and we appreciate their work.
Bonnie, did you have a comment? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.